consultants and experts in solar energy from around the world gathered here today. And today's virtual conference will also be live broadcast by YouTube and our media partner channels. Before we get started, please allow me to use some time to cover for a few housekeeping items in short. Firstly, about who we are. We Leader Associates is a global leading event organizer concentrated on renewable energies. In the past few years, we have hosted events across Asia, Pacific, South Africa, and South American, Africa, and Europe. Secondly, please kindly find today's brief agenda on the slides. In the morning session, Green Energy Future Vietnam, including 3 chapters, Vietnam Renewable Energy Panel Discussion, Financial Sessions, and the 3 high-tech sessions keynotes. Thirdly, I would like to remind you that one-on-one business meetings and virtual booth exhibitions are already opened on our event platforms, and all our speakers and delegates can visit the virtual booths and platforms. So the platform link will be attached in the chat box later. And please take your time and find more partnership. At last, all audience are welcome to raise any questions to our speakers through the Q&A box on the Zoom meeting control panel. We will select 1 or 2 questions from audience to speakers to answer after their presentations if there are still time left. And much appreciated for your attention and patience. That is all for the guidance. And now we will begin today's knowledge sharing and Thank you. So our first opening sessions of Green Energy Future Vietnam will be panel discussion regarding the rapid expansion of renewable energies in Vietnam. So Vietnam is no doubt one of the hottest renewable energy markets in the world. And about a year ago, an intensive commission rush of 5 gigawatt solar project has completed in Vietnam and make it one of the world's most active markets. So today's our speakers will discuss about these expansions. And Mr. Joseph Iset from UC Clean Energies will be the moderator of this panel discussions. So Just has over 20 years experience in renewable energy in Southeast Asia. His experience covers private sector finance and investment, market assessment, business development, and the United States Agency for International Development Clean Power Asia Program, short for USAID Clean Power Asia, implemented by ACEW Associates, work with low Mekong countries and other associations in South Asia nations. States to encourage power sector investments in environmentally friendly, grid-connected renewable energy sources. The program focuses on improving power sector planning and forecasting supportive policy networks, and also mobilizing finance and investments, also promoting enhanced regional cooperations. And so, Mr. Joseph, so you can start your panel sessions begin, and I will leave the microphones to you now.
Thank you, Zoe, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all and to be the moderator of this panel. I think we have a good set of panelists here today, all with interesting activities and probably perspective on the Vietnam market. As Zoe mentioned, Vietnam is without a doubt the hottest market for renewable energy in Southeast Asia right now. There's a lot happening, there's a lot of interest, both locally and international. In the last 3 years only, we've seen a very rapid growth of solar and wind, driven by feed-in tariffs that are quite attractive and not really available anywhere else in the region. and that has driven a lot of development. We have now over 5 gigawatt of solar or utility scale solar, nearly 2 gigawatt of rooftop solar. Wind is also growing. There's half a gigawatt installed now, and over a gigawatt under construction. I should note that all of that is happening in an environment that was met with some skepticism by the international community initially because of clauses in the PPA, etc., that makes it hard for international finance institutions to participate in that market. Nevertheless, we've seen tremendous growth, and it's going to be great to see where it's going next in the next few years. So our panelists today, they're all from international developers or investors with a long-term interest in Vietnam and active across a wide range of technologies and business models, so solar, wind, and biomass. So to start off the panel, I'll ask each of you to give a quick introduction about yourself, your company, and what you're working on in Vietnam at the moment. So maybe not more than 5 minutes, and then after that I'll ask a few questions to get the discussion going, and we'll see where we go. If there are questions from the audience, of course, we're happy to address those as well. So with that, let's get started. I'll go sort of clockwise on my screen. So maybe start with you, Yoshino Busan, if that's okay with you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for taking me here. Let me begin. And I want to share my document on the screen. Is that okay? Hello?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see my documents?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yes, you may want to go to presentation mode, so make it a little bit bigger.
How about this?
Yes.
Yes.
Please click the second button on the top, and yes, on the top. The
Is that
second.
okay?
We can see the two slides in the same page, so please use the presentation mode, and you can choose that mode on the top of the second button.
Presentation mode.
Yes. You can see there is a button on the top.
On the top.
Yes, the second one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Present.
And you can.
Maybe here. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay right now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I will do very quickly. My company is called Renova, which is Japanese renewable energy power developers. As you can see, we are doing 4 renewable power projects: solar, biomass, wind, and geothermal. This is projects in operation and under construction. Currently, this is today is the 333 megawatts in operation and 505 megawatts in construction. This is our company's growth trajectory. You can see the yellow one is solar, green one is biomass, and light blue one is wind, and dark blue one is for overseas projects. So our target in the future, not long time in the future, but in the future like 2030, we have each one of them 25%. Overseas, wind, biomass, and solar. This is a picture. We do solar approximately 350 megawatts. We do biomass approximately 400 megawatts. We do wind power approximately 1 gigawatt. We do geothermal, although they are under development. And total capacity will be 1.8 gigawatts, which is Renovat's target. Maybe this is what we are doing in Japan. You can see it later. I can share you these documents later. This is how the biomass project in Japan is developing. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects is under development. Each one of them, COD, is between 2022 and 2024. Each of them got 75 megawatts dedicated biomass power projects in Japan. This is a picture of a biomass project. This is again the picture of a biomass project. This is one of the future projects, large-scale offshore wind projects in Japan. We have limited area of where the wind blows strongly and constantly. So we are aiming in the northern part of Japan, one of the project, which is called Yuri Hwanjo offshore wind project. This is the promising zone for offshore wind power development in Japan. This is one of the wind power projects in Vietnam. Maybe you can see it later. This is additional information. We are doing with good with environmental people. We try to keep nature, whatever the renewable project is going on. Our profile, Renovas company, you can see we are developers and we are doing power producing and asset management. These are our business area. This is a global trend in renewable energy and Japanese government policy. As you can see, this is called energy mix, which is a famous target by our government. By the year 2030, renewables will take 24% of total energy. Maybe this is a comparison among the overseas countries, how renewable energy is growing. Japan is still delayed against other advanced countries. Yeah, this is it. This is my the presentation. I will please get back to you, Jost. Thank
you. Thank you, Yoshinobu-san. So we'll later also probably get more into detail about some of your activities in Vietnam. So I'd like to ask Vika Stocker from Aquila to provide a brief opening and talk about your activities in Vietnam.
Thanks. I'm also going to try and share my screen. Just bear with me 1 second. Great. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Is it full screen mode now?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, great to be here and good morning, everyone. I'll just start with a brief introduction of myself. I joined the investment team of Aquila Capital based in Singapore earlier this year, and I'm covering the Asia Pacific markets. I've been in Singapore about 9 years now, the last 5 of which have been focused on solar project development and investment. And prior to that, I was unfortunately on the conventional power side until I saw the error of my ways and switched over to renewable energy. Now, moving on to Aquila. So, for those who didn't study Latin at school, Aquila means eagle, and it's the company mascot. We literally have a 6-foot eagle in every office of the company around the world. Aquila Group was basically established in 2001 as one of the first German alternative investment firms. It currently manages 11 billion of euros for different institutional investors, and it's focused on real assets with a core focus in sustainable infrastructure, principally renewable energy, energy efficiency, residential real estate, green logistics, and most recently diversified into data centers as well, with the first transaction in Norway announced yesterday. Over the last decade, the company has built a large asset portfolio, which includes over 6.5 gigawatts of renewable energy projects. Aquila's approach is an integrated investment and asset management approach, which essentially means we draw on dedicated teams in the relevant markets to screen, develop, finance, manage, and operate projects across the entire value chain. As you can see from the next slide, to date, Aquila's footprint has been mainly across Europe and largely across solar, onshore wind, hydro, and real estate. Earlier this year, the company made the decision to expand further into the Asia Pacific region and establish a regional hub in Singapore. The key drivers for this decision were, as you all know, the incredible market opportunity that Asia Pacific presents, but also we were supported by the fact that at the end of last year, Daiwa Energy and Infrastructure became a significant minority shareholder in Aquila Group. We've basically been putting together a team over the course of this year, based in Singapore to cover the region, and this consists of a mix of both investment and project development, as well as technical and construction professionals who have a considerable experience in the region, many having been here for over a decade and have worked in the renewable sector over that time. The core focus of the team will initially be solar PV and onshore wind, but the idea is to also cover energy storage and other sustainable asset classes in the near term, in line with what Aquila's business model is in Europe. We look to enter projects early in the development stage and intend on being more than just a financial investor. We look to contribute to both the design and optimization of projects. In terms of markets, Vietnam is a core focus for us in the region, and we've already started creating and establishing a team on the ground there with considerable solar project development experience, and very excited to take part in the growth of this exciting market. Thanks.
Thank you, Vikas. That's all good to hear, and also your interest in Vietnam, of course. We'll get to that in more detail later. So maybe next, Phong, can you introduce yourself and talk about Mainstream activities in Vietnam?
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to share my screen. Is it good now? In full screen?
Yes, looking good. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm representing Mainstream today. Mainstream is a global development and developer and investor in renewable energy. We are a pure player in renewable energy, and we focus only on wind and solar for the moment. And in the near future, there will be also storage. And under our portfolio, we have delivered to operation more than 1 gigawatt. And now in terms of asset ownership, we own Here on the screen is 400 megawatt, but actually including our assets that have been just commissioned in Chile, we have roughly 1 gigawatt in operation right now, and in construction in total, including Chile and South Africa, we have about 1.9 gigawatts, and in our development pipeline, we have about 9 gigawatts, and we have offices in all 5 continents and very active, especially in Vietnam. Our central hub is in Singapore, and our development is in fact based on a standard we develop in-house. We call it Mainstream Global Development Standard. It's a combination of the World Bank, IFC, and the Equator Principles in terms of standards and procedures for quality project development. And with this standard, we consider all the aspects of the project, from health, safety to environment, engineering, permitting, contract procurement, etc. From the beginning, from the site identification to through the development stages, so that our projects are developed to the best quality, and that help us in raising international finance for our project. And as you may also read on the news that the Mainstream has just raised almost $600 million for our portfolio in Chile. It was one of the biggest financing for renewable energy project in the world. This is an example of some project we deliver into operations. And along with our development activities, we focus a lot also on community activities. We work with the local communities to provide capacity building activities, and also a lot of human aid activities, not only specific to renewable, but also in other sectors like education, jobs creation, and so on. Yeah, we do a lot. And in Vietnam, for example, for our Phu Quang Sóc Trăng project, we also participated in a lot of community activities since 2016. And our headquarters is based in Singapore. Our APAC headquarters, in fact, is in Singapore, and our center of excellence for wind energy is based in Ireland, UK. And so our APAC team works together for every project opportunity, not only locally focused. I mean, for example, one project in Vietnam, the technical teams in Philippines and Australia are also involved, and the legal and financing team in Singapore are also involved in our Vietnamese project, so that our projects are well managed. And this is our team in Asia Pacific. And in Vietnam, we are developing one of the biggest offshore wind projects in the region, 1,400 megawatt Sóc Trăng project that we cooperate with Phu Quang Group. Our first phase of 400 megawatt will go into construction in the coming year, 2021. And we expect to deliver this project into operation in 2023. And in the meantime, we are. This is the website of the Phu Quang Sóc Trăng project if you want to look into more details. And we are also developing a lot of other wind and solar projects in Vietnam. And this is, for example, one image of our Phu Quang Sóc Trăng project. We set up LiDARs, 2 LiDARs for measuring wind data for the project since 2018 until now, and we have now enough data for financing, and also the technical design of the project has been finished. And for this project, we show here some development activities that we have done, including metocean campaign and on the surveys and environmental assessment have been done. And also the design of the turbine foundations, etc. Apart from South Chang project, we have another 500 megawatt project in Bến Tre, and also looking at another opportunity in Bình Thuận. Yeah. This is a short introduction of Bến Tre. Thank you.
So,
yes.
So last but not least, as from Macquarie Capital to introduce himself and company and activity.
Hi, morning all. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes, well and clear.
Okay, let me try and share screen. Just give me a second. Hi, so my name is Ihua Lu, and I am the head of Vietnam for Macquarie Capital, GIG. So give me a few minutes. I know we're running a bit late, so I'll try and keep this brief, but just a few minutes to introduce both Macquarie and myself. So as you know, Macquarie is one of the largest Australian financial institutions. We are active in 31 different markets, one of the top 10 Australian companies listed, and we have over 15,000 employees. I think it's been established for over 51 years, and the origins of Macquarie is, of course, a financial institution. So most people probably know Macquarie as a bulge bracket investment bank headquartered in Australia. Although I would note that for a few years now, more than 50% of the revenues of Macquarie Group are derived from outside of Australia. So certainly we've crossed the threshold where we're no longer an Australian investment bank. I would say we are a global investment banking financial institution with its origins in Australia. And for most of you, Macquarie is probably synonymous with both infrastructure and renewable energies. As a group, we have too many assets to show on one slide. So this is a very simple slide to show Macquarie Group's remit or reach into renewable energy assets right around the world. So you can see we're active in all of the major markets. Obviously, Europe, very active because in many ways, Europe is the leader in renewable energies globally. So you can't see all of the assets, but just to highlight a few noteworthy discussion points. I think we have investments in about 12 offshore wind farms in Europe, in the UK, and also in continental Europe. Most recently, we transacted on a 740 megawatt offshore wind project, East Anglia 1. That's quite high profile. And in terms of onshore wind, we have a lot going on in the Nordics, which is, again, one of the leaders of onshore wind. And at one stage, we were 50% owner of the largest onshore wind development in Europe, perhaps in the world at the time, which is the 650 megawatt Mark Bigden project. And then in Asia Pacific, it's worth noting that we are active in the three sort of most developed markets, so Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. And particularly in Taiwan, we are the leading developer of offshore wind with 3 projects, F1 already in operations, 128 megawatts, F2, 573 megawatts in construction. So it's certainly the largest offshore wind project in construction in all of APAC. And we are pursuing F3, which can be up to 2 gigawatts in capacity. You know, we're a $1 developer there, and we're waiting for the government to release the tender in the next phase. And of course, in Australia, we have a lot of investments as well. So just to give you a picture, certainly I think if you looked at the 1980s, 1990s, Macquarie was synonymous with economic infra in the sense of toll roads and airports. And I think very much pivoting, you know, after 2010, we are pivoting towards being very heavy and very focused on renewable energy. So just a bit more about the Green Investment Group. So you should think of the Green Investment Group, or GIG, as the brand name or the platform through which Macquarie Capital undertakes its renewable energy investment and renewable energy development activities. I think what's very important to note is, you know, from our origins as a financial institution, the GIG has grown effectively to be a little utility company that's embedded within a large financial institution. So we are certainly no longer just investors, we are very much developers. And in each of these regional markets, we have a good complementarity of banker type people like myself, as well as technical people, so people with development skills in negotiating supply chain contracts and asset management as well. And then this slide is just to show that, certainly to make the point that Macquarie Capital and GIG is not simply an investor. So we don't simply wait for an asset to be nicely packaged. We are the people who get in at the ground to try and find the right assets, the right partners, and then to create the assets so that more passive institutional investors can come in and invest once we have sufficiently de-risked the project. So for anybody who's listening on this webinar now, certainly if you are a developer in Vietnam and you have a project, then you should feel free to reach out to myself as head of Macquarie Capital GIG there. We do kind of operate with our subsidiaries. So you may also see Blue Leaf Energy pop up. It is a 100% owned subsidiary of Macquarie, which specializes in solar development. So we work very much hand in hand with that business there. And as a 100% shareholder, we obviously can drive the direction of their development. And what would I say? So I'll just pause on this last slide. I won't go through the rest of the deck, and I'm very keen to get into the panel discussion. But what is Macquarie Capital Green Investment Group and our subsidiary, including Blue Leaf's interest in Vietnam? Number one, we're very asset agnostic. So we see exciting opportunities in all the asset classes: solar, onshore wind, and offshore wind. Solar is the one that boomed due to the high feed-in tariff, until mid-2019. There's been a bit of a hiatus on solar whilst the government figures out the next steps. So you have FIT 2 ending this year, and they're moving into either an auction and or direct PPA regime. And for us, either of those next steps are very feasible ways to monetize assets. And in fact, if you look across other jurisdictions like in Europe, very much the direction of travel has been the market starts with a feed-in tariff, and then eventually it goes to a zero subsidy model. And all of our largest offshore, our largest wind projects in Europe, including the 650 megawatt Victim project, was monetized through a zero subsidy way through corporate PPAs. So the DPPA and auction regimes are, I think, the way of the future, and we're very comfortable, very excited to kind of look at that way of developing in Vietnam. Onshore wind, I would say, and nearshore wind is the boomer right now. You see people racing towards the feed-in tariff deadline end of next year, and hopefully when FIT 2 is announced, there'll be another few years of extension, albeit at a different rate. So again, we're very excited and participating in that. We have a pipeline of assets under exclusivity with one local developer, and we're actively pursuing a number of others right now. And then finally, offshore wind, clearly something that Macquarie is very strong at, hence this slide. So I think in the region, not only do we have significant investments in the Taiwan market, but we also are in Korea and Japan. And in fact, recently we announced a partnership in Korea with Total, where we're jointly developing 2.3 gigawatts of floating offshore wind. And Macquarie is a $1 developer there, so we're out there deploying LiDARs. So in the Vietnam context, we're very excited about the potential for offshore wind to significantly contribute to PDP aid as well. We know that there's a current process going on with the World Bank, and there's a bit of regulatory water to flow under the bridge for the government to figure out the best way to fit offshore wind into their broader plan. We have our own project in application in the Binh Thuan province, and we're looking at a number of other large PDP 8 potential projects with other developers in the market as well. And I'll just end by saying, the way that Macquarie always operates is we look for local partners. So rather than developing 100%, we're always on the lookout for like-minded, serious developers, and that's the kind of model we like to do. So I'll just leave it there.
Great, thank you for that. It's good to see an overview of all your companies and your activities worldwide, and also some in Vietnam. So keeping with that, I think maybe to start off, you're all part of fairly large companies with interest in many countries, many parts of the world, with viable markets for renewable energy. Maybe the first question is, why are you in Vietnam? What is it about the country, about the market, that makes you think we need to be there, right? Because this is a good opportunity. So maybe I'll stay with you, and you talk a little bit about that, and maybe touch a little bit on some of the challenges as well. Like, what is it great about the market, but at the same time, what are some of the things that are making it a little bit hard to work?
Okay, great question. So first of all, very attractive fundamentals and macro trends. So, $2,500 US dollar per capita GDP, but in the medium to long term, growing to where middle income countries are. Very voracious power growth. So going from 55 gigawatts installed now to around 130 gigawatts in 2030, which is what's needed to keep the lights on. Stable political setup. And strong support for renewables, I think, and in particular pivoting away from the previous reliance on hydro and coal in PDP7 and PDP7 amended towards a much more renewable focus. So very strong macros. I mean, for us as Macquarie, we are blessed with a relatively large and strong balance sheet, so we don't have to choose between a developed market and a developing market, and so for us this is very strong. The last thing I'd say, which is an attraction, but also as a segue is a challenge, is that right now Vietnam is still quite fragmented. So you don't have one or two large, perhaps state-owned utilities dominating the renewable energy development landscape. What you have is a lot of small local developers who may have pivoted from adjacent industries such as real estate. And they kind of own the development rights to a lot of projects. And from an international perspective, whilst you do see regional strategics, so the Thais and the Philippines, and to some extent the Europeans as well, come in, all the panelists on this call, you are yet to see the passives deploy capital at scale. And the passives we speak to generally say that it's difficult for them to find deals or assets that are nicely packaged to the international standards and ticket size enough for them to look into it. So that's a challenge for us, but it's also an opportunity for us because it creates space for us to add value.
Sorry, right. Maybe Phong, I can ask you the same question. You've been, of course, you are from Vietnam, and Mainstream has been in Vietnam for quite a while. How do you look at that?
Thanks. I'm Vietnamese. I know the Vietnam market very well, and also I'm representing Mainstream, who is a foreign invested company. So our company's perception of the Vietnam market and the reasons for being here are that Vietnam needs energy, a lot of energy for the development, and especially in renewable energy, we have no choice other than renewables. And the second argument is that the Vietnamese regulations are quite clear and transparent, not as promising as you would expect it from other markets, but in terms of transparency, it is very transparent, and everybody can understand the regulation from the Prime Minister to the ministries and then to the provinces are very transparent and straightforward. And also FDI companies in investment interest are protected here in Vietnam. So if you let aside the unbankability of the PPA in terms of technical constraint, Vietnam is a quite stable economy and safe environment to invest. And due to the unbankability of the PPA that people are talking about, raising international finance for Vietnamese project is still difficult for now, but local finance sources are quite enough for a lot of projects, and if you can develop project to the good standard, good quality, you may start with local financing, and then you look for refinancing with the international finance. But in order to raise international finance, even for refinancing, I believe that the technical aspects of the project should come first. Should be the most important criteria for you to decide whether or not to invest in the project. From Vietnamese point of view, I would put the permitting as a second criteria. I would put technical potential of the project first.
Right. Good point. And good to hear you highlight the stable regulatory and transparent regulatory framework and et cetera as a strong point. I mean, there's a lot of international attention about, you know, the PPA is not bankable, et cetera, et cetera. You're right. At the same time, you know what the situation is, what you need to do, right? So, and it's not perfect anywhere. So, good. So Vikas, maybe you can share your point of view on this.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, similar to what's been touched on already, we feel the macro fundamentals are particularly strong in Vietnam. I mean, despite COVID, power demand still expected to grow this year and to continue at somewhere between 6 and 8% growth per year over the next few years. So demand is there. As we've mentioned, the government has shown clear intent to move away from coal and to push renewables and gas to meet this incredible demand of the country for electricity. Other key benefits we see is that there's a skilled workforce that's shown it's capable of deploying 4 to 5 gigawatts, 12 months, which is pretty incredible. No one expected to see that done in such a short time span. And from our perspective, although we're a fairly new kid on the block, new setup in Singapore, our team members do have considerable experience in Vietnam, and our colleague who's just joined on the ground has personally developed 200 megawatts in Vietnam of solar PV capacity. So we have the knowledge base in-house and the experience to make strides in this particular market. In terms of the challenges you mentioned, there are challenges, obviously, that everyone's aware of. The key ones being grid capacity. We saw after the first surge in deployment for the first round of FIT of solar projects that some in the most congested areas are being curtailed anywhere between 30 and 50% for the first few months. That obviously scared investors, particularly overseas investors. But what's been great to see is that the government has stuck to its word and improved the transmission network, upgrading lines. So we've seen that curtailment levels come down fairly quickly. So the government is aware of the problem around the grid and is trying to be more coordinated in its approach towards adding projects to the National Power Development Plan and improving the grid at the same time.
Great, thank you for that. Good to hear the curtailment levels are coming down. That is definitely a concern for many people. So yeah, and good to know that government is working hard to overcome that, because that, you know, in the long run is not going to help the attractiveness of the market, of course. So lastly, Yoshinobu-san, can I ask you to talk a little bit about your views on the Vietnam market, and maybe you want to highlight, you know, some of the activities in biomass that you mentioned, and your interest in Vietnam in that sense.
Thank you. The reason why we are looking at Vietnam is, first of all, Vietnam has plenty of coal-fired power stations, which is fueled by fossil fuel. They need to be out of fossil fuel. That is a government requirement. So they want to introduce a renewable energy. This is the first. And second reason is currently Vietnam export fairly large quantity of biomass fuel to the Japanese market. So we are familiar with the Vietnam market as the supplying country of biomass fuel to a Japanese market. And thirdly, maybe their subsidy scheme, which is like FIT, is well established and some things attractive to any new investors. So these are the main reason why we are looking at Vietnam market. And of course, the demand of electricity in the future, toward the future, is growing. That is another attraction to ourselves. So we are looking at not only biomass, but also solar and wind power as well in the Japanese market. In the Vietnam market. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, and you know, like I mentioned in the introduction, there's been a lot of growth in solar and wind, biomass not so much. Earlier this year, I think it was that the government increased the feed-in tariff for biomass because it hadn't really gained any traction. And I'm not quite sure about major developments in that space, but I think we can expect some happening there as well. Vietnam has a large agriculture base as part of the economy, of course. So there should be, similar to Thailand in a way, a lot of potential for developing more biomass power as well.
One more comment from me. Can I do that?
Please. Yeah, of course.
Not like other renewable projects such as solar and wind power, biomass can create local job, and biomass can create flow of local materials into power stations as long as the power project will continue. So this means even after COD of a project, people are employed and things are moving. Therefore, we generate the cash flow to a local community. That is different, as what solar and wind power and other renewables can do. Only biomass can do. That is my belief. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that comment. There's a question from the audience, or if you don't mind, we can take that, and it's about the proposed feed-in tariffs for wind, the FIT2, right? I've seen the tariffs. I don't have them in my mind. I'm sure you guys have all seen them too. So the question is, like, what are your views about these proposed tariffs? Is it still feasible to develop projects under these, and in particular the offshore sector? Is it still feasible to go with that to develop projects in the pipeline? So I'll leave it to you. Who wants to take that first?
Yeah, it's Ihua here from Macquarie. Maybe I'll give it a go, but I'll welcome comments from other panelists as well. So I think the offshore one is the easiest one to comment, which is, it is on the low end to make things feasible. I think we also need to divide the Vietnam offshore wind sector into two relatively distinct clusters. You have what we would term nearshore projects, which are, let's say, for argument's sake, less than 40 kilometers from shore, and typically class 1 sites with not such extreme wind or high wind conditions on average. And these might be feasible with marinized onshore turbines. So I think for these projects, it may be possible to do it at the $84.7 per megawatt range. Now, obviously, a lot of the development premium might go out of it. So for the developers, they might have a different view. But for us as an investor, we think that with technological advancement, it may be possible. However, the time frame again, and the fact that even the 84.7 ratchets down, I think that's the element that does not work. For a really large, even nearshore wind project, for it to get economies of scale to achieve at low LCOE, we think that the tariff needs to at least be extended to, say, end of 2025, rather than having, you know, quite a steep drop and ending 2023, owing to the, you know, long development timeline. On the onshore side, I think it again is low, and I think the people who feel the most pain are the developers who are looking to make the local ones who are looking to make, you know, significant development premiums. I think for a good site, again, maybe it is possible, but my observation is there are a lot of sites in Vietnam which are, you know, have less than 7 meters per second of average wind speed. I'd say most of them are like that. And so I think it's a balance, right? If you peg it at that low rate, some projects may still be feasible, but just a lot less, and therefore the sector will develop a lot slower than if the onshore tariff is a little bit higher. Then we see a lot more of the projects being immediately feasible, and therefore you can reach those renewable targets a lot quicker. So it is a balancing act for the authorities to decide what do they want. Do they want absolutely cheapest power, or do they want to help build the industry?
Great. Anybody else wants to comment on that?
Well, I'd like to add to Mr. Lu's comment regarding the proposed feed-in tariff for wind. In fact, in the proposal by MOIT, there's an appendix of the calculation that GIZ and made to show the assumption they took in calculating the feed-in tariff, and according to us, the parameters in terms of capacity factors are too high, according to also to Mr. Lu, due to the low wind speed of Vietnam. Vietnam is not a country with a very high wind speed except Ninh Thuận and Bình Thuận. And even in Ninh Thuận, Bình Thuận is not as high as you can see in other European countries or in Taiwan. So the capacity factor of 34-35% is very difficult to achieve. And more than that, the capex for offshore project is expensive. It's up to $2 million per megawatt, and it's not going to be reduced as quickly as they assume. It cannot go from $2 million per megawatt to $1.8 million per megawatt in less than 2 years. It's not possible, especially for offshore. And thirdly, the parameters in terms of debt and financing is not feasible. If you take 6.5% as interest rate, it's too low. You cannot raise financing with that interest rate in Vietnam. You have to apply local interest rate of 10% or more. And if you have high capex, low capacity factor, and high feed-in tariff, high interest rate, you cannot have a gearing of up to 70%. It's impossible. You cannot pay your debt. So in order to have to make projects feasible and to keep our investment return at an optimal range, I mean between 11 to 12%. According to our calculation, the feed-in tariff for offshore in Vietnam should be in the range of 9.1 to 9.4 cents per kilowatt hour to make the project feasible.
Okay, that's clear. I don't know if Yoshinobu-san or Vikas have some more to add to this, or
Well,
you're very much in agreement. It is probably not enough to make it happen, right? So you was raising an interesting point about the distinction between nearshore and offshore, right? Wondering about that. I think there is, of course, tremendous potential in Vietnam for large offshore, but it's still unclear how that is going to be implemented. So what are some of the things you would need to see to make that actually happen, right? The tariff that has now been proposed is low. The PPA as structure right now is unbankable. So for large offshore projects like that, what are some of the things that you would want to see improved, and maybe also think about what could happen in terms of auctions? The government planning to go for auctions for that, and what would you need to see in an auction design to to make it worthwhile to participate? Because I don't know if you want to take the lead on this one.
Sure. I'll just start by saying offshore is not really a space that we're looking at. We're more on the onshore wind side, but I think the principles apply to both, whether it's onshore, offshore, or large scale utility solar. As we see this move to auctions, there's been some talk about the possible auction structures, whether it's a solar park approach or a substation access approach. But as you said, I think one of the key things to try and improve is PPA. I know this has been debated at length on many webinars and many panels, so no need to go into the detail, but some big issues around termination, curtailment rights. There's just a lot of risk pushed onto the developer that will make it hard to deploy significant capital on very, very large scale projects. So I think if the government can improve that, I know there's a lot of institutions working with the government to try and highlight these areas that would attract even more capital in, and thereby lower cost of capital, which would translate into lower overall tariffs and cheaper electricity for the government. But that's something that would need to be worked on for the auctions to be really successful in Vietnam.
Right. Yoshinobu-san, you have, I think, more of an interest in offshore wind.
Yeah, maybe, definitely.
To that.
We are interested in all renewables in Vietnam.
All renewables. Okay, good. So what would you like to see to make to make the offshore sector really attractive? Or what are some of the things that really wouldn't make it work?
Maybe we need a strong wind blowing.
Well, of course.
That is a fundamental issue. So our engineering team is busy, investigating the possibility always. And if the possibility is there, we will do. But besides that, maybe my priority is again on biomass potentiality in Vietnam. So I'm still looking for that possibility in Vietnam.
Right. Because you mentioned, the PPA has been debated at length, multiple events, etc. So maybe no point in beating a dead horse. I don't know if there's an expectation that this would improve. I think in many ways the Vietnam government doesn't have a lot of reasons to improve it with all the developments over the last few years. Of course, it remains a little bit to be seen what happens with those projects that have been built, right? Because if curtailment is happening to a high extent, some projects may fail, which ultimately is not benefiting anybody, including the government and the system, right? So in that sense, there may be an interest to look at that. Maybe to turn that around, do we expect that the international finance community would come around and say, oh, okay, I think we can live with the PPA as is? In some ways, similar to what happened in Thailand when they first came out with the Adder scheme and their standard PPA. It was 5 years, automatically renewable up to a maximum of 25 years, right? So at that time, there was also a lot of pushback and say 5 years and automatically renewable or extendable, that doesn't work for us as a bank, as a lender, etc. Now, many years later, we've learned that this hasn't really been an issue. All these PPAs get extended, and people are very comfortable with that arrangement now, and financing is easy to get. So similarly, is that something we can expect in Vietnam? That we recently saw ADB refinance BGRIM's large project. So that's a sign of international finance coming in and working around the PPA. Is that something you expect to happen to a greater extent?
Yeah, definitely. I think where you have strong sponsors involved in projects, I think you'll see refinancing of loans that have gone in to support projects. But this element of some kind of sponsor guarantee or some kind of credit risk mitigant, I don't think is going to go away until these improvements are made to the PPA. I think it'll take the lender community a bit more time to get comfortable with that. So then the alternative for a lot of projects is as we've seen already with the first round of FIT solar projects, there's been a lot of EPC financing that's gone on in projects, and now those loans are coming due. So there's a lot of projects in the market that are looking for new homes, new buyers, as the local developers need to refinance these loans that were put in place. So that's causing a bit of a squeeze in the market.
Right, that is a concern. So I see Zoe appearing again. I guess we're running out of time here. We already over time, or we have time for a last comment?
I think we have time until 10:20, right?
Well, 10:20 in Singapore, so we're already
okay.
10 minutes over that.
Yeah. Right. But still, thank you for this amazing panel discussions. And yes, sadly, we don't have that much time for you to continue your topic, but you are welcome to use the chat box and also the Q&A to answer the question from our audience. And our attendees, you can also join our virtual platforms to connect our speakers, so you can chat through our platforms, and hope that will be help you for this panel discussions. And thank you all for your today's attendance.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, and for our next speaking sessions will be a keynote presented by Mr. Alred Noi from Infraco Asia. He will talk about the bankability of large-scale utility solar projects in Vietnam, along with a case studies. So Infraco Asia is a part of the private infrastructure development group and a commercially managed public financed infrastructure development and investment company headquartered in Singapore. So Infraco Asia funds early age high-risk infrastructure development activities by taking the equity stake in commercially viable infrastructure projects that contribute to economic growth and also social development. So hi, Alred.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, and sorry to keep you waiting so long. And yeah, you can start your speaking sessions now.
Thank you very much, Joey, for that
very
kind introduction. And thanks to Joost and the panelists on the previous panel, very insightful and great knowledge sharing. I think the community interested in investing in renewables in Vietnam have greatly benefited from your presentation. I'm going to put up some slides. And hopefully that works. Can you see those, Zoe?
Yes, I can see it. You can make it full screen now.
Yeah, I need to. Okay. That should be it.
Yes, yes, we can see it. Okay.
Brilliant. Well, Zoe and leaders associate, thank you very much for inviting me to today's webinar. It's a great initiative, having a complete week focusing on renewable energy and clean energy in ASEAN. What I will do in the next 20 minutes is give you a very brief introduction of what Infraco Asia is about, and where we are with regards to the renewable energy frameworks in the various countries in ASEAN, addressing the infrastructure gap and the challenges around financing, as well as our approach to it. And then I will finish up with a case study, which was one of the very first utility scale solar projects in Vietnam, 160 megawatt solar PV project, which has been in operation since June 2019 in Ninh Thuan province. As Zoe already said, Infraco Asia is part of the Private Infrastructure Development Group, which was founded back in 2002 with the main objective to basically fill an infrastructure gap where the private sector is either unwilling or unable to do it on their own. So we take very early stage, high risk developments forward. PIDG has 6 subsidiary companies, and Infraco Asia was sort of the last subsidiary which came to the market. We've been established in Singapore since 2010, and we're now proud to say that we're an award-winning company. We won a PFI Thomson Reuters Award, and a Bridgeham Excellence in Sustainability Award, an IJ Global Award in 2018 for our exit, our successful sale of a hydro project in Vietnam, up in Lao Cai province. And more recently, on the basis of a mini grid in the Philippines, or multiple mini grids in the Philippines, we won the Asia Power Award for Smart Grid of the Year. As I said, Infraco Asia is part of the PIDG, which is currently funded by 6 governments and the IFC, which is the commercial arm of the World Bank. And they pick and choose. So we are currently, as Infraco Asia, being funded by 4 out of those 6, which does include the governments of the UK, the Netherlands, Switzerland, as well as Australia. But the uniqueness of our model is that they delegate authority to our board of directors and to our investment committees, and that is all being populated by people from the private sector. The PIDG, so the Private Infrastructure Development Group, basically covers the entire infrastructure project lifecycle with 6 subsidiary companies. 2 very much focusing on upstream development, providing feasibility studies, as well as embedded advisors into government to bring infrastructure projects to life. The 2 Infracos, Infraco Africa, been active in sub-Saharan Africa since 2016, and then 2 credit solution businesses. The Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund has been in operation since 2002. That was the very first subsidiary company under PIDG, providing long-term both local currency and hard currency debt structures, as well as mass debt structures. And then Garantco, which is a local currency guarantee company, which got a global mandate for Asia. They're co-located with us here in Singapore. And what we address as Infraco Asia, and what is part of our mandate in terms of our investment criteria, is threefold. Number one, we're looking at commercial viable projects. So we run rough and dirty financial models right from the outset. But in addition to that, we're there to, as a catalyst, to crowd in the private sector and not to crowd out the private sector. And hence we won't bid for deals. We're there to complement and not to compete with the private sector. And then as part of our mandate, we're also looking at development impact. And that's a combination of economic and social impact. Looking at basically creating better access to better infrastructure for poor people in this part of the world, but also developing local procurement, supply chains, and job creation. In terms of energy consumption and where ASEAN or Southeast Asia is at present, you see that there has been a great increase in particularly solar and wind in the region, and that's partly to do with the ASEAN combined efforts to set targets for individual countries, and I'll come back to that in a later slide. The energy consumption across Southeast Asia is remarkably high on the industry side, so about 40%, residential about 30%, and then commercial and services about 24%. And the proportion of the renewable energy mix in the various different countries is highlighted at the bottom of this slide. The slides for the audience will, by the way, be made available by Leaders Associate after this presentation. I already said that there have been targets set by each individual country for meeting renewables across Southeast Asia, and in particularly ASEAN. So Laos, no surprise, given the high level of hydro, have set themselves a target of 30% of RE by 2025. Indonesia had set themselves quite ambitious targets, I would call it, and it's still remain to be seen whether they will be able to get there. And then Myanmar at last, a country where we are also developing renewable energy projects and have already a mini grid in operation since earlier this year. They've set themselves a target of not percentage of the overall generation capacity, but a target of 15 gigawatt by 2030. If you're looking at the infrastructure investment needs across the region, according to the ADB, they estimate that Development Asia needs to invest about 26 trillion over the next 25 years, which means that equalifies to about 1.7 trillion a year. And this is sort of the overall coverage whereby we've broken up East Asia from South Asia. The private sector investment in infrastructure in Asia, and that's largely in energy, is lagging behind. So only 32% of the current infrastructure investments are being done by the private sector, and clear reflection that private investors are concerned about the risk and rewards in capital intensive industry, including renewable energy investments. So overall, if you break this up, you will see that high quality projects which are well structured and medium quality projects only are about 1/4 of the overall projects which are coming to market. Low quality bankable or non-bankable projects are still more than half of the total projects which are coming to market. And why is this? There are still a few markets in Southeast Asia which have a very weak regulatory environment and a lack of transparency in that regard. And foreign direct investors do have choices to go into certain markets. And as the previous panel discussed, Vietnam, with a predictable feed-in tariff for both solar and wind, have been able to attract large amounts of foreign direct investment in particularly in solar PV and in the wind power sector. Permitting processes, there are quite a few countries around whereby ministries are operating in silos and there is a lack of coordination amongst these permitting processes. The absence of a one-stop shop could help foreign direct investors to navigate in this complex structure. And a few countries have done work in this area, Indonesia and the Philippines in particular. And then there are still, in certain countries, foreign ownership restrictions. In the renewable energy space in the Philippines, this is capped at 40%, and then the lack of local currency financing. The other thing where foreign direct investors in the renewable energy space would be looking for is obviously the development of human capital as well as local debt markets. We're looking at not just development risk, but also geopolitical risks. You would look at implementation risk. So what are the chances to get good quality owners, engineers, as well as EPC contractors on board to deliver your projects on time and within budgets. And then once you have reached COD, you're looking obviously at operational risk, and the previous panel addressed the curtailment risk in Vietnam as one of those risks quite clearly. Investors' perception is shaped by various factors, and it's good to see that this is being updated by CMS on a regular basis. The remarkable aspect of a number of countries in this part of the world is that investors' appetite is obviously high in those OECD countries, but in comparison, China, Indonesia, India, and the Philippines are scoring quite high on this chart. And that's a combination between private sector participation, political stability, and clear tax environment, as well as the economic growth. Vietnam obviously scores high in that, and that's why they are part of this chart. And what we do as Infraco Asia to address all these issues I've just talked about, we basically put development dollars at risk, typically anywhere between 2 to 10% of total project cost. And we do that as co-sponsors. Everything what we do is in joint ventures. We're across the 12 countries where we're mandated for, currently active in 40 plus project joint ventures, and a large amount of these project JVs, more than 50%, are actually in the renewable energy space. And we basically put these development dollars at risk to de-risk projects, getting through permitting processes, getting to land acquisitions, negotiating PPAs, and then getting to a bankable solution. At financial close, we're trying to attract further private sector capital into the mix. And if possible, and if not, we'll stay in, we'll get into construction and then reach COD. We're not an asset owner for the next 25 years, so we are always looking at a way to exit from our individual projects or portfolios. And we've got two pools of capital. So one is Infraco Asia Development, which basically funds pre-financial close, as well as Infraco Asia Investments, managed by the same management team, having the same oversight by our board of directors, as well as the same investment committee. But Infraco Asia Investments, different risk profile, comes in at financial close or close to financial close. So replication of our mandate and business model can address barriers to bankability. So acting as a principal to develop primarily early stage high risk development projects is very much part of our DNA, but we're there also as a catalyst to stimulate further private sector investment into the mix. We operate very much in accordance with this pinnacle in stage 1 and 2, so early stage development, project development, and getting then projects over the financial close line. On that note, I would like to highlight a case study and that's a 160 megawatt solar project, which is in operation since June 2019. We partnered with a Singapore-based SME, Sunseap International. It's the international arm of the Sunseap Group, and we jointly developed and delivered ahead of schedule one of Vietnam's very first utility-scale solar projects. It's been financed by 100% foreign debt and equity, and that's an advantage which Vietnam has. There's no limitation on foreign ownership. There is no limitation on bringing in foreign banks to finance your project. We've been able to attract 72% debt, so 28% was equity funded. We've been able to meet the race to fit, as I would call it, so the feed-in tariff of 9.35 cents per kilowatt hour on the basis of a 20-year standardized PPA, which we signed in the third quarter of 2018. We reached financial close in the fourth quarter of 2018, and as I said, it's been in operation since June 2019. At the peak of the construction, and I was on site together with our joint venture board members of Sunseap every single month to basically track progress, as well as to do our monthly board meetings. And I think that has been one of the reasons why we were able to deliver this on time and within budget. But at the peak, we had about 2,000 workers on site, and about 192,000 people are now benefiting from clean renewable energy into the mix. Very briefly about the project structure. So a part of it is structured offshore, whereby Infraco Asia entities formed a joint venture company with Sunseap, and we then put in a intermediate holdco in Singapore to allow for a blended finance structure, both by Sunseap and by Infraco Asia. That Singapore-based intermediate holdco funded the project company in Vietnam, and that's where the project finance was ultimately structured with. This is a regional bank. We've been able to structure it with 72% debt. 1/3 is actually in VND and 2/3 is in US dollars. This was one of those sidewalks, the image on the left, with part of our owners and part of our JV partners, and a testament by one of the co-founders, Frank Fang of Sunseap. And this provides you with an overview of both the control room and a drone shot of the massive 170 hectares site with 168 megawatt peak being installed. And the image on the bottom, right-hand side bottom, was taken during construction, basically the control room and the dispatch area of the project. On that note, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And again, thanks to leaders and associates for inviting me to today's session.
Hi. 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 Yes, thank you for your great speeches. And yes, so I think we do have a good site about the large scale utility scale project in Vietnam. And right, so if you're not in a, because I'm afraid we kind of already been delayed for our next sessions. So I'm terribly sorry we couldn't keep you stay for another Q&A sessions, but you can stay in this Zoom sessions, and if there are any questions, you can, if our audience give you any questions from the Q&A box, you can answer them directly.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so that's the keynote was the financial sessions presented by Franco Asias, and so our audience are welcome to give any questions to Mr. Alan Redenoy. And for our next sessions is high tech, and it will be presented by 3 amazing companies. So our first speakers will be Mr. Jada Lee, the senior manager in Vietnam from Solis. So he will talk about the CNI market in Vietnam and how to maximize the efficiency of Solis with Solis 5th generation smart inverters. So about Solis, so Jinglong's technologies, which is presented under Solis brand, is one of the most experienced and the largest manufacturers of solar inverters. The company's portfolios use innovative strength inverters technology to deliver the first-class reliabilities that has been validated under the most stringent international certifications. And armed with a global supply chain, the world-class R&D and manufacture capabilities, Jinglong's optimize its Solis inverters for each regional market, also serving and supporting its customers with its team of local expertise. So, hi, Mr. Lee.
Yes, I'm hearing.
Yes, hi.
So may I share my screen?
Yes, but we can't see your, maybe you haven't turned on your camera. Yes, so.
Sorry, because I assign now and background very messy, so
okay.
Not very nice to, how you can understand for this?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So you can start sharing your screens now, and I will leave the microphone to you.
Okay, when you see, you let me know.
Yes, you can start now.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Zenda. I am a technical service in Vietnam.
Sorry, Mr. Lee. Sorry, we couldn't see your screen now, so maybe you haven't shared your screen. Yes.
Okay, can you see?
Yes, we can see it. You can make the slides to full screen.
Yes. Today I would like you to introduce with you about a solid inverter. Yes. Solid inverter have more than 15 years experience. We were established in 2005, and until now, we have the model of string inverter from 0.7 kilowatt to 255 kilowatts. Yes, the total asset about nearly 300 million US dollar. We have more than 1,500 employees on the global, and we have more than 200 plus technicians. Here you can see on the Q3 2019 to Q3 2020, we grow up 74% revenue and 189% profits. Yes, this year we have a target to make 5 gigawatt string inverter on global. Yeah, on the global we are the number one. Number one on UK, number 2 on US, on Brazil, and in Vietnam. Solid inverter now become very famous. We supply a lot of projects for rooftop and small project on solar farm. We also got some certificate for DNV plumbers. Here are some components for we are using for solid inverter. We are using IGBT from Germany, LCD from USA, connector from Spain, and some component from Omron, Toshiba as well. And one more important thing is 100% inverter produced are tested before shipment. So it makes the problem will be reduced, and the inverter already already testing carefully. We are using MC4 from Stobely. The brand name come from European, so the quality I think is okay. Here are some photos showing us inside a solid factory. The inverter, so the solid inverter have 25 plus year for long life. Solid inverter, we have two kind of string inverter. One is on risk and one is high risk, means storage inverter. For on risk, we have two models, the one phase and three phase inverter. For one phase inverter, we have from 0.7 kV to 10 kilowatts. For three phase inverter, we have from 1 kilowatt, from 3 kilowatts to 255 kilowatts. Yeah, we also have the model from 10 kilowatts, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100, 110, 125, and more than that, 255. In Vietnam, the popular one for one phase inverter is 3 kilowatts, 5 kilowatts, 7 and 10 kilowatts. For three phase inverter, we have the popular one is 20 kilowatts, 30, 40, 60, 80, and the most is 110 kilowatts. The customer satisfied with the 110 kilowatts inverter for the small size project. In Vietnam, a lot of factories have 1 megawatts project. They can use 7, 8, or 9 inverter 110. We also have the energy storage. We have the model from 3 kilowatts to 10 kilowatts. In Vietnam, the most popular is 5 kilowatts and 10 kilowatts. Yeah, Solid also have the monitoring device, data logging stick. It can use for each inverter. For data logging box, we can use for maximum 10 inverter on the communication line. We also have the module for 1,500 voltage for solar farm. In Vietnam, also we supply 255 kilowatts inverter for solar farm. The voltage up to 800 voltage. Here are some advantages for 5 generation of solids. We can reach efficiency about 98.7%, and the starting voltage very low, 180 volt. and the MPPT voltage range about 160 to 855. Some model can reach to 1000 voltage. Here are some advantages for solid 25 to 50K 5G. We can reach the efficiency about 95.8%. We have multi MPPT, so we can optimize the power of the string. The DC overload ratio about 1.3, and the ampere of the string boost we can reach to 13 amp. We also have some intelligence monitoring like smart IV, surge protection type 2 for DC and AC. So we can have optional for type 1. Yes, this is the most popular of solid in Vietnam. 110. 110 we have high the maximum efficiency about 99%. We have about 10 MPPT with 20 string inputs. The inverter have no fuse, so it can reduce the risk for fire. The DC per AC ratio about 150%. So, and the inverter can support for wire connector. In Vietnam, some customer want to reduce the cable cost, so they would like to combine 2 string by wire connector and go to the inverter. So our inverter can fulfill the customer requirement. Here are global service of solid in Vietnam. We have a headquarters in China. We have technical support in Vietnam, Myanmar, as well, Indonesia and European, also in American. For case study, I will share for Vietnam one. Yes, this is the 621 kilowatts we installed last year, 2019, and they are using 60 kilowatt inverter 4G. Here are some 110 kilowatts inverter. Yeah, here are project on the factory in Vietnam, nearly 1 megawatts. They are using 110 kilowatts inverter, 60 and 80 as well. And here is 1.2 megawatts in Vietnam. They are using 13 pieces inverter, 90 kilowatts. Here here are the 1 megawatt project in Vietnam. In the shrimp farm, they are using 9 inverter 110. The project have just installed this year. Here also 1 megawatt. Yes, we supply a lot of 1 megawatt in Vietnam. Most of them, they are using 100 and 110 kilowatt inverter. Here is the big project in Vietnam, 7 megawatts. They are using 96 soles, 110 and 10. Yeah, here is 1 megawatt in the project as well. Yeah, here are 3.7 megawatts. They are using 27 solid 110. Here are 2 megawatts. And here is 5.5 megawatts in Lâm Đồng province in Vietnam. They are using 45 pieces solid 110. Also 6 megawatts. And this is the project. They are using 255 kilowatts inverter. The size is 14 megawatts. They are using 56 pieces solid inverter. And here are the storage inverter in Vietnam. Okay, my presentation now is if you have any question, you can let me know. I will say more about solid inverter and solar market in Vietnam to you.
Okay, hi.
Yes.
Hi, Miss Lee. Thank you for your speeches. And we do receive the one questions from our audience. And
yes,
yes. So it's from Arsening, and he or she asked about how long is the standard warranty extendable until how many years? So you can see the questions from the Q&A box.
Yes.
Yes, so maybe you can answer that.
Yes, the standard warranty about 5 years, but we also have an option to customer to extend the warranty to 10 years, depend on the project. And as you know, the long life of the inverter solid is 25 years. So in Vietnam, we also have the technical support team to immediately to support customer in case customer have the problem. So
okay, right. Thank you for your answer. And if we receive more questions from our audience later, you can stay in the Zoom and answer those questions from the Q&A box.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, right. Thank you for your attendance, and hope to see you in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And okay, so that was the speeches carried out by Mr. Zheng Li from the Solace. And if our attendees want to have more questions, you can put your questions in the Q&A box. Also, for our next speaking sessions will be presented by Mr. Brian Okoroki, and he is the Senior Business Development Manager from the Next Tracker. So Next Tracker is a flex company and is a leader in the energy transition, providing critical yield enhancing PV systems technologies, and with expertise in the strategic service to capture the full value and maximize the energy efficiency of solar plants, and delivering the most comprehensive portfolio of intelligent solar tracker and control software solutions for solar power plant. Next Tracker is transforming PV plant performance with smart technologies, data monitoring, and analyze service. And so, hi, Brian, can you hear me?
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, nice to see you coming. Hi.
Thank you. Will I start my presentation now?
Yes, you can start it now, and I will leave the microphone to you.
Very good.
Okay.
So let me share my presentation here. Okay, is that sharing properly?
Yes, it's sharing, but you can maybe turn it to full screen. Okay, yes, it's sharing now.
Okay. Fantastic.
Okay.
thank you, Zoe, and thanks to Leader Associates for the event. It's been great so far. So Nextracker and myself are delighted to be invited to speak. My agenda for this morning is a little bit about Nextracker and a short overview of the Southeast Asian market. I'll then give an introduction to the Nextracker product ecosystem, a little bit about the competitive advantage of Nextracker, and then hopefully some time for some questions and answers at the end. So who is Nextracker? Well, Nextracker provide critical yield enhancing PV system technology to maximize the efficiency of solar farms. And we do this by delivering a comprehensive portfolio of intelligent trackers and energy boosting software. So Nextracker has been around since 2013. And in that time, we've shipped over 40 gigawatts worth of solar trackers. We're on target to ship about 15 gigawatts in 2020 alone. As you can see in the graphic here on the right, we're the #1 by market share by quite a substantial amount. And we've been #1 in the market share for 5 consecutive years, going on 6. Our market share is equivalent to the combined total of the following 3 largest competitors combined. We are a subsidiary of Flex, it used to be Flextronics. Flex are a leading global contract manufacturer. They're one of the largest contract manufacturers globally, with annual revenues of over $25 billion. And with a $14 billion balance sheet, they provide good support to Nextracker. So this is an overview of our global presence. So you can see our Nextracker headquarters is based in California in the US. We've recently established an office in Singapore to service the Southeast Asian market. So all Southeast Asian markets will be served from Singapore. We're actually in the Flex HQ in Singapore is where our office is. Nextracker have quite a strong presence in Australia, where we've deployed gigawatts worth of projects. So the engineering and support from Australia is going to be made available to our Southeast Asian customers while we're ramping up our capacity here. So my next few slides are just a little bit about the scale of the market in Southeast Asia. So if you can see, yes, we're discussing primarily Vietnam today. The numbers may not be 100% accurate, but I think the scale is what's important. It shows you that there's, just slightly over 5 gigawatts of projects already operating in Vietnam. There's another, kind of 5 gigawatts in construction or late stage development, and there's a huge pipeline of projects to come when the market mechanisms are put in place. So there's, it's a good time to be in the regions. There's going to be a lot of projects coming up in the next few years. This graphic here shows, what's been built to date. So we're at kind of somewhere between 10 and 12 gigawatts installed at the moment. And this projection is showing that we might get up to about 35 gigawatts within the next 4 years. So that's, quite impressive growth is expected. A lot of that coming from Vietnam, but other markets as well. What this graphic here is showing is it's the same pipeline as the previous slide of what's been built to date, and it just splits it between what's fixed tilt and what's been installed using trackers. So you can see that to date, trackers have had a small but growing proportion of the market. And it's expected that amount of trackers is going to grow significantly in the coming years, particularly as economics of projects tighten. So, countries move to auctions like Vietnam, the margins will become less and people will need to optimize their projects further to make returns. So how do projects help a developer make the project returns they require? Well, I suppose on a very simple level, you can get 20 to 30% more energy yield out of the system at a 5 to 10% cost premium. So for an initial upfront cost of say 10% more capex, you might get up to 30% more yield every year for the life of the system. That is primarily achieved by the trackers follow the sun every day, so you ramp up much faster in the morning than you would with a fixed tilt system, and you get a kind of a broad shoulder on the day, and you generate more power later into the evening before ramping down again. I suppose people were talking about curtailment in Vietnam earlier on as well. So if you had a tracker in Vietnam, these parts of your day where the tracker is generating are very unlikely to be curtailed when everybody else is on a fixed tilt system. So that's another advantage of trackers, especially in markets where there isn't so many of them yet. You can also kind of get more power through a fixed AC system. So if you're AC constrained, you'll get more power out of a tracker system. So moving on to the Nextracker product portfolio. So there's two main elements to our portfolio. There's the physical trackers, and there's our software and control systems. So we have both a 1P and a 2P, so 1 in portrait and 2 in portrait tracker. The 1 in portrait tracker is our flagship product, and it's 99 or maybe 95% of what we sell is this NX Horizon product. And NX Gemini is a newer 2 in portrait tracker that we have on the market. And on the software side, we have two kind of distinct pieces. We've got a software product called True Capture, which is a energy enhancing software package. And we've got a piece of software called NX Navigator, which is an O&M and control platform. So what makes Nextracker's tracker different from standard trackers on the market? I suppose in principle, the fact that we're unlinked and self-powered are the two kind of basic pieces. It's also what's called a balanced design. So it takes very little power to move the tracker, which enables us to have a huge rotational range of 120 degrees. So from -60 to +60 throughout the day. What that does is it enhances the yield we can get out of the system by an extra 1 or 2% over a standard tracker. It's self-powered, so you don't need to wire it to, you don't need to basically bring AC cabling down to each motor to power it. There's a small solar panel on each row that powers itself. So you eliminate wiring costs. You also eliminate, we've got a wireless controller, so you don't need to run comms cables. And also the fact that it's unlinked makes O&M much more convenient. So for example, if you want to mow the panels or mow the grass, sorry, you can put the panels at 0 degrees and mow quite easily around them. And then if you want to clean the panels, you can stow them at 60 degrees and just drive down the row, and you don't need to reverse around drive lines or anything like that. Another benefit of the independent trackers is because you don't have to build them in blocks, you can actually fit more capacity on your site. So you can fill out your site to the exact boundaries of the site. So that could be up to 10 or 20% more DC capacity on a site. And another thing that's mentioned here is the slope tolerance. So it's quite a large degree of slope tolerance, so up to 15% in the north-south direction, and unlimited in east-west. This here is a different view of the tracker. So this is kind of a 3D SketchUp of it. And what I want to show here is this panel here is the panel that both powers the tracker, and it also can detect shade, which can be used in our True Capture software, which I'll get to a bit later. So this panel provides power to our controller, which has an inbuilt battery into it. So there's a lithium-ion battery in this unit here that has 3 days worth of backup power. So even at nighttime, if there's a wind event occurs, the trackers have the power to stow in the position they should be. And even if there's multiple days where there's low resource, there's plenty of backup power in that unit to keep things moving. So that powers the individual motor here that drives a slew, kind of a worm drive, and that rotates the whole the row, which can be up to 93 modules on a row. And the last thing that's highlighted here is our wireless antenna. So we use Zigbee wireless, which is an industrial wireless protocol, and up to 100 of these can be fed back into a central network control unit. Those network control units are generally on the inverter units, and they kind of connect up with the SCADA system at that point. So it's going to go on to some of the benefits of Nextracker. So one part here that's highlighted here is that we're optimized for bifacial modules. One element of that is we raise the modules up off the torque tube to allow more even light on the back of the panel. So in PV Syst and in real life as well, you'll see that a Nextracker module might get an additional 1.5 to 2% power out of a bifacial system than a standard tracker would. I'll go into more detail about bifacial later in the presentation. The next point is this is another view of the module that powers the tracker, but it also has these elements that can detect when there's shade, which is used in our true capture system. And these two bits here show how we're technology agnostic. We've got a design that works very well with the large First Solar Series 6 module, and it also works very well with the larger format mono PERC modules that are coming on the market now. So what I'm going to address here is the bifacial gains from the system. So, bifacial modules are rapidly being adopted by projects. There's a very small price premium to pay for a bifacial module, so most people are starting to look at them. Initially, there was a lot of discussion as to how much bifacial gain you really get from a solar module on a tracker. So to answer that question, a group of various companies got together, or didn't get together, but independently did some testing. So Nextracker, we have our own test facility. A PVEL, who are an independent engineering firm, set up a test facility as well. And NREL, who is the US National Renewable Energy Laboratory, set up a test rig as well. So these are all using Nextracker's trackers with bifacial modules. And what the results have shown is that in a low albedo situation, so kind of darker backgrounds, so grass potentially, you can get anywhere from 5 to 7% gains, depending on the season. And then in higher albedo situations, which could be kind of lighter color backgrounds, potentially snow in some parts of the world, but even kind of in Vietnam, I suppose a lot of projects have been built in sandy locations where the albedo is quite high. So those high albedo simulations, or not simulations, measurements showed anything from almost 9% gains to over 14%. So generally kind of around 11 or 12% is kind of achievable with a high albedo. Another yield enhancing element is our True Capture software. So True Capture is a unique system to Nextracker. It's our own IP. It's a software system with two kind of distinct elements to it. So it's got a row-to-row tracking piece, and it's got a diffuse light tracking piece. So what the row-to-row tracking does is it takes a different methodology than the industry standard backtracking methodology. So the kind of industry standard backtracking assumes that every PV site is perfectly flat and that the PV rows are all equally spaced, which obviously in reality never happens. You'll have site undulations, but you'll also have variances in construction. So, PRIs is varying slightly. So you'll get, uneven row shading. So what True Capture does is, instead of driving every row exactly the same, we disaggregate it and we move every row individually to maximize the power. So there's no shading from one row onto the next. So what that has been shown to prove or to demonstrate is an extra 2 to 3% yield from this element of true capture. And then the other element of true capture is our diffuse light tracking algorithm, which has the weather sensors feeding in data to a algorithm. And the algorithm, once it detects there's a clouds, persistent clouds, it will, instead of tracking where the sun in the sky would be, it moves to a more horizontal position and tracks, gets the light coming down out of the clouds. This again has up to 2 or 3% yield gain. So the two of these combined, depending on the topology of the site and the weather conditions prevalent on the site, can give you anywhere from 2 to 6% additional gains just from a software program that's enabled with our independent row tracking. So if you add the tracker, the bifacial, and the true capture elements, you get a curve that looks like this. So the gray part is your standard tracker, what it will get you. What you can see is in the morning, with the mornings and evenings with the row to row gains, you get quite a, that's where your improvement is coming. You're possibly up to 3% additional revenue or additional yield, and additional revenue. Your bifacial gain tends to be kind of consistent throughout the day, less in the mornings and evenings and higher through the middle of the day. And then obviously the diffuse light gain comes into play whenever there's clouds. So your production is down, but the diffuse light element will kind of bring you back up a little bit of the way. So all these combined, make it quite a compelling case. You're talking about 20 to 30% just from the tracker, an additional 6 to 12% from bifacial modules, and anywhere from 2 to 6% from true capture. And I suppose one thing that often comes up is wind loading and how trackers deal with it. So Nextracker have spent a lot of money on R&D and wind tunnel testing, and we continue to refine our design, particularly as newer modules are coming on the market. The larger modules are causing more forces on the structural elements. So we have to continuously refine our design as the modules get larger. And that's something that we do and we continue to do. What I'm showing here is a site in Australia. Part of the site was done with a Nextracker tracker, and another section was done with a different tracker. And you can see when a wind event occurred, the Nextracker system stowed and protected itself and sustained no damage. However, the other system sustained significant damage, which is obviously very unfortunate. Not only do you have the cost of repairing the system, but you've also got the lost revenues from the time that you're not producing, and you have to take down a large portion of the system to get it repaired. So I think it's very important to consider wind events, particularly I suppose climate change is causing more frequent wind events and they're stronger. And as I said, the larger modules are causing additional forces on trackers as well. So it's critical to consider the local weather conditions when deploying a tracker. That brings me on to NX Navigator, which is our other software tool. So how this comes into the wind piece is our standard tracker. It will use the wind sensors on site, and it'll automatically stow our trackers at 30 degrees into the wind when the wind picks up above a certain threshold. With NX Navigator, you can actually go in, and if you know there's a severe event coming, you can stow the system at 60 degrees, which locks the system into its hard stops, and the system is braced for severe wind events. So even if the power goes down on site and comms disappears, the system will stay locked in at 60 degrees until it's deactivated. So it'll protect itself. That's just one element of NX Navigator. NX Navigator is also a tool for asset management and owners to track the performance of the system. it provides something like a digital twin of the system, giving, I think it's 5-minute updates of 13 variables from each row. So, if there's any issues in any of the rows, it highlights physically where those are. So the O&M team can go out, quickly repair them and maintain uptime. And that's becoming even more important as, projects are getting larger. So you don't want to spend, days looking for problems. You want to know where the problem is and go fix it. Yeah, and that's all I have for you today. So I suppose I've gone fairly quickly through that, and there's a lot more detail for anybody who's interested. So you can reach out to me at my email there, and happy to talk to anybody.
Okay, hi, Brian. Yeah. Right, thank you for your speeches, and it's quite brilliant. And also we got one question from our audience, so maybe you can answer it. And so it's from Rick Lay, and ask about what is the ongoing O&M cost, and how much more compares the tradition on a no-track panel. You can see the question.
I can't actually see the question, but I must admit, I'm only a couple of weeks in the job, so I don't have all the answers yet. Okay. But, O&M costs are not that significant for a tracker. One element that's kind of interesting is we have our own engineered fastening device. I'm not sure, can you see my screen there? But it requires no maintenance over the 25-year life of a system. So, most bolts, you're going to have to go and check. I've seen in O&M contracts before, people have to check 25% of the bolts every year. With Nextracker, we have this, it's a aeronautical derived fastener. So it'll last for the life of the plant with no O&M requirement. Obviously, there are elements that will need to be replaced occasionally on the tracker, but I think it's pretty negligible in general. So I can, if that person wants to send me an email, I can get back to them and give them more details.
Okay, sure, no problem. And maybe you can also went to the audience, attend this, and maybe you can to chat by the our platforms or through the chat box. Yes. Okay. So thank you for your coming, and you can stay in the panelist and keep listening to the following sessions.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Sure. So now it's coming to our final speaking sessions, which will be presented by Mr. Leonardo Botti, and he is the Managing Director of FEMA, who will talk about the new era in smart solar inverter technologies. So FEMA is the 4th largest solar inverter supplier in the world, specialized in solar inverters and mobility systems. It has over 1,100 employees worldwide and offer a comprehensive solar solutions portfolio across all applications. So FEMA's skills are further strengthened by its bold approaches that sees it consistent invest in R&D. So with a presence in 26 countries, together with local training centers and manufacturing hubs. So FEMA remains close to its customer and the ever-evolving dynamics of the energy industries. So hi, Mr. Botti.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon to everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. But,
okay, super.
Yeah, I can see your images now. Cool.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
Okay, tell me if you see it.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah, I can see your slides now.
Okay, now, good.
Maybe
thank you very much.
Yes.
Yep, thank you very much. I'm here today to share with all of you an important and an exciting story and a mission for the future. We like to say that we are driving the new era of the smart technology with this company called FEMA. And it's a mix of the histories and past of three different important companies. First of all, let me say that our brand today is a combination of three very important organizations which joined during the last years. And here we have the timeline of our history. We have an history which is over 50 years, and it combines together three different realities. One is Fimer, which is an Italian brand, started in Italy over 70 years ago. And we have also other two parts of this new organization, which are coming from Power One, which was an American/Italian company as well, very famous and very well known in the solar business since the beginning, since ever, I would say. And ABB Solar, which is also another very huge, very large, very important organization, very focused in many different technologies, including solar. These three realities came together across the last 15 years. And in 2020, actually in the beginning of this year, these three realities came to a same organization, which is the new Fimer today, where we are and where we are doing our business. In a nutshell, we like to say that our tagline, our mission, our ambition is to say that we have people with passion for solar and with passion for the business, with passion for photovoltaic and with passion for the energy. And if we go a bit on the numbers, I have not, created a lot of charts related to our experience and to our numbers. We are one of the top player in the inverter business since ever. We have today over 46 gigawatt installed base spread around all the different continents. We have installations really in all the continents, in America, Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Oceania, wherever, I would say. And with over 2 million inverters spread around the globe, and with an industrial capability, a production capability, which is above 10 gigawatt per year, spread in three different locations. As I said before, the combination of these three different realities has created an history which is well over 25 years in the solar, but over 50 years, as I said, in the power converter, in the technology in general. And we have today our focus in solar. So far, we have been, I would say, busy in many different segments. Today, we have really decided that solar and the energy segment is our life motive. And that is why today 90% of our organization, 90% of our revenue comes from solar. This means that we are really very, very focused and very focalized in this segment, with all the different, I would say, deviations which can happen in the future, considering that solar is today not any longer just a business related to a niche market, but is a big portion of an important, or I would say one of the primary market, which is the energy and the energy management. When we look to our setup, we have 6 major pillars where we based our structure, our business, our organization, meaning to use advanced technologies indeed. And we are well known for those ones since, as I said, since the beginning, especially for Power One, which has been always a technological leader in the solar business. We have speed, thanks to an organization which is really very entrepreneurial, especially coming from the Fimer history. And we have a global footprint. We have a global footprint also in this case, which has been supported so far by a larger organization like ABB. In fact, we have, as we said at the beginning, several offices spread around the globe to serve properly our customers. We are focused in solar, and we truly believe that the reliability, the performances, the quality of our devices and of our support, of our services are an important milestone in our, I would say, organization and setup. Flexibility, because we believe that to serve properly the customers and the market, we need to be flexible enough to provide our solutions in the right time, in the right shape, in the right setup. Now, as I said, the global presence, we have over 20 offices spread around the globe, like in Singapore, like in Thailand, Taiwan, in many different places. And we have over 1,100 employees spread around the globe with over 200 engineers, which are our, I would say, main assets. Because we are a company who develops solutions, who develop technological solutions, and this is what we want to continue to do in the future. We are today focused in solar, but we have also an organization inside our structure which is now leading the way or paving our way on the EV chargers for the electrical vehicles. And we truly believe that these two technologies, EV chargers and solar inverters, are very well connected and will be even more connected going forward in the future. But let me go a bit on our solutions. I have not listed all our devices because otherwise, the 20 minutes that we have available will not be sufficient at all. But I have just combined in some chapters to properly explain who we are and what we do. First of all, I like to share this kind of global understanding about the network, about the electricity system. As you can see here, we have a macro representation of the electricity system where we have transmission lines, where we have distribution lines, where we have applications at the residential level or at the utility level, at the commercial and industrial level, with renewable energies, with conventional power plants, with microgrids. And all these devices, all these applications are interconnected today via different sources, via different connections, via different networks. Now, we are focused in the majority of those, as you can see. That is why we have solutions for the utility, we have solutions for the residential, for the C&I, for the microgrid as well. But what I'd like to share with you in this chapter, in this slide, is not only that one, is instead the reality that we are living today. We believe that the energy and the electricity system is changing through three major pillars, through three major, I would say, technologies which changed our life and which are changing our life. One is indeed the distributed generation. 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was not even possible to think about the opportunity to self-produce energy in our roofs, in our houses, or in our parkings. Today we can. Today we can thanks to the distributed generation and mainly thanks to solar, which is the renewable energy source more suitable for the distributed generation today. Moreover, we have initiated to store the energy because the renewable especially are very volatile and very difficult to control in terms of prediction, in terms of production capability due to the weather, due to many different reasons. But we have today available the storage, and the storage can help in firming the renewable energy source, I would say properly, based on the consumption rather than the production that we have in a specific area or in a specific network. The next pillar, the next game changer is related to the electrical vehicles, which are becoming more and more electrical. And in that sense, the chargers of these electrical vehicles will change completely our consumption profile of the energy, which we have seen so far. For this reason, combining together all these three major pillars, we have a revolution on the electricity system, and we really want to drive, we really want to stay a key player on this revolution, which is already started years back. And now let me go a bit on the different solutions that we have. Again, I have not listed the individual devices, otherwise it was going to take much more than the time that we have available. Now, we do have very smart and very innovative solutions in the residential segment, where we have products which are going from a few kilowatts up to maybe 10 kilowatts, single phase, three phase, with the storage capability. And in all those ones, what we believe is a key and unique selling point is the digitalization. Because today we are not selling any longer just power converters, which are just converting energy with a certain efficiency or with a certain flexibility, but we are offering devices which are doing that as those have done in the past, but they are also offering the digital energy management, the capability to organize ourselves, to organize our network and our way to use the energy in the best way, in the more efficient way. That is why we do have solutions with the hybrid concept, with the storage or without the storage. We have products which are single phase and which are also three phase. Now, if in this chart, for instance, we have just one example, a city in Dubai where we have installed in all these villas our devices, our system. That is a renewable energy city, which has been freshly and newly built in Dubai last year, with all these houses employing our devices. Now, if we go instead on the commercial and industrial area, where we do have larger roofs, but not just roofs. We have also parking lots. We have also some small ground-mounted projects, but also floating projects. We do have different products and different solutions, which goes from 10 kilowatt up to 100, 120 kilowatts. String inverters with multi-MPPT, with double stages, with fuseless technology, with very advanced capabilities to manage the export limitation, to manage the interaction with the network, with the Wi-Fi communication devices, etc., etc. All these features embedded in the same kind of products, inside the same package. And as I said, we have also in this range, in this application, a big variety of devices. And in that sense, I'd like to spend a few minutes for a new coming, which is the renewed, the main renovation that we are doing at this moment in our portfolio. We are going to have, and we are using the Singapore event to launch this one as a first time. We are going to have the new devices in the range of 10 to 33 kilowatts, two platforms, 10, 12.5, and 15 kilowatts, and 20, 30, 33 kilowatts. Two different platforms, but very similar and very, I would say, same in terms of performances, meaning same look and feel, very, how to say, suitable for all the new technologies which are coming in terms of devices, in terms of panels, in terms of needs from the customer side. Very suitable for the retrofitting, because there are a lot of devices in the field which are now going to be old, which are now going to be out of warranty, especially the ones installed more than 10 years ago in Europe, but also in Asia. And in that sense, that device could be really a very suitable, I would say, product to be employed in replacing other older devices which have been already in the field for a while. At the same time, the performance, the performance of this device are definitely, they are higher in class in terms of flexibility, in terms of efficiency, in terms of capability to provide all the protections, hard fault, PID, etc., which are today requested in all our different devices or different applications. Indeed, price, because the cost and the BOS are today more and more an issue for our customers, for all our chain, and in that sense, get a solution which is super, I would say, delivering in terms of performances, but also I would say affordable and cheap in terms of cost is the best combination that we want to have, that we need to have, and reduce the maintenance. Reduce the maintenance because we know how that is important. We know how this is relevant for the market, for the customers. And in that sense, we believe that we have combined together all the ameliorations, all the innovations which we have learned during the last 25 years in this segment. If we go to the next chapter, to the next application, the utility, very large projects. We have a lot of large projects spread around the globe. We have very huge plants in Latin America, but also in Europe, in Asia, in Vietnam, but also in India, in China, in many different areas, as I said at the beginning. Also, in this case, we do have solutions with the string inverters. And I like to remind that we have been the first in getting the Intersolar Award in 2018 with the largest string inverters for 1500 volts application at that time, which is our PVS 175. If you remember in the first chart, I was showing that in 2018, we got the award in Intersolar as a most innovative product in that range. Also in this case, it's important to have a special attention to the LCOE. That is why we have different solutions. We have a string solution, as I said, but we do have also central products for very, very large installations, which are definitely focused on the LCOE, on the efficiency of the system, on the ratio between the quality, the cost, and the performances. And we believe that with this kind of setup, with this kind of portfolio, we are capable to offer to our customers really all the potential solutions which they want to have. I like to say that, especially in the utility, we are always capable to offer to our customer more than one solution with different technologies, and let them to choose what they want to use. If they want to use string, if they want to use central, if they want to use a turnkey solution, if they want to use a combination of the two, this is really at their convenience. In the utility as well, we have storage products which are derived from the inverter technologies, and we consider the combination of these two elements an important asset, an important capability to offer to our customers and to our market. But going a bit further in terms of technology and in terms of development, where are we busy? Where are we focused today? We are super convinced that as I mentioned at the beginning, the electricity market and the energy market is changing quite a lot. And we need to follow this change, and the digitalization, the capability to offer digital solution, it's a key. It's a key and it's a master. That is why we have initiated already years back a process, a journey where we are going to have in our devices embedded digital capabilities to communicate, to share data, to be ready for an interaction with the network. But the journey is just initiated, meaning that, as you can see in that chart, there are many different things which we intend to do with our new products, with our new solutions. But in principle, the focus is to have always a smart inverter with the capability to be storage ready, at the same time to get ready for blockchain, for example, or to allow a diagnostic and prognostic using cloud service, which we do have in our portfolio with our portal, and provide customers the availability of all these big data, all the analytics to allow the forecasting and the understanding about the performances and the behavior of the performances in the system as well. Last item that I would like just to share together is related to the combination and to the interaction between, for example, at the building level, between the inverters, solar inverters, which are generating energy, and the electrical vehicle chargers, which have a similar technology, because the key in this case is the power conversion technology. And if you look to a building, we can easily divide the devices which are producing or converting energy, like inverters and electrical vehicle chargers, and all the other devices which are essentially loads. Now, we are today very focused on the part which is converting the energy, as I said, with the history of the inverters and with the new products, with the new chain, with the new families of the electrical vehicles, because we truly believe that there is a strong relationship between the two technologies. We are busy in both to offer the capability to manage in a smart way, in a very efficient way, the management system inside the building, inside our project. And that is all from my side. Thank you very much, and I'm open to questions.
Hi, Liam.
Yep.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for your presentations. And we have received several questions from our audience, but because of the time, so we might only select one, and you can answer other two questions from the Q&A box directly.
Okay.
Yes, so yeah, can you see the question from?
Yes, I'm looking to the question now. Tell me which one should I answer, because I see from the one I see at the moment are related to the trackers.
Right, maybe you can answer a question from a anonymous attendee. Asked about what is unique about female product, which can be advantages for the. You can answer that one.
Yeah, I think the digital part, I really believe that today the digital component, the digital section inside our solution is a key factor and is a unique selling point where we are really, how to say, differentiating between us and many of our competitors, because we are capable today to offer solutions which could really allow the strong and the best interaction with the network, with the demand energy response, which are very often requested by the different electricity company and service providers in different areas. I think this part is really something which I like to say that is differentiating us from our competitors, alongside a very large portfolio with solutions which go from, as I said, from 1 kilowatt up to 5 megawatt ampere.
Right. Okay. Sure. Thank you for your answer. And so about another two questions, maybe you can give your answers to the Q&A box. Or yes. So thank you for your coming then.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see which other question I'm looking to. Okay, here there are people interested about the PVS 1033, the new product. In this case, I'm now referring to the last one I'm seeing. I would say, please go and get in contact in Singapore, where we have our experts, which will be more than welcome to provide you all the specific details and specific information about the product. I'm referring now, for example, to Mr. Yu or others who are asking about these products.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. There is another one, sorry.
Right, so that's which is, you are the last speaker for this one.
Because it's quite a long one. I need to read it. It's okay. I'll read that one and I'll reply directly. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Can we answer to other question, or it's already, because I think the time is already gone.
Yes. So that will be your speaking sessions, and yeah, that will be all for your presentations now.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that will be all for this morning's presentations, and I would like to mention that both Solus and FEMA, they are the virtual booth exhibitions of our event platforms. So our delegates and the speakers, they can go to our event platforms, and after you log in, you can go to the exhibition halls, and it will show the booths of our two companies. So you can click to view the more details if you want, and there will be staff there from their own companies to stand by and answer your questions. Okay, so now it will be the end of our morning sessions. So thanks a lot for our amazing speakers and their wonderful speeches for Green Energy Future Vietnam. And so about our afternoon sessions, the Green Energy Future Digitalizations, it will begin at 2 p.m. in Singapore time, and we'll particularly focus on the opportunity of digitalization in renewable energy markets, and especially focus on like energy trading, renewable energy value chains, and other points. So you can see the brief event agenda on our slides, and the Zoom meeting will begins about 15 minutes in advance. So you can use the same Zoom link to enter these meetings. And I will see you at 2 p.m. then. Thank you all for your coming.